So 3 or 4 days ago, I was depressed. I was suffering with a bout of depression. Now, when it comes to depression, it's going to affect people in different ways, but I just want to talk about what I was dealing with, how I sort of have begun to try and overcome it, and just putting this out there to see if anyone can kind of relate with this kind of stuff. So, yeah, sometimes for people, I feel like, you know, they just have a bad day. You know, their boss yells at them, their partner, you know, doesn't appreciate a gesture that they did, or I don't know, maybe they just didn't eat enough food, they didn't get enough calories, or they were a bit dehydrated, something like that. You know, there's a million things that could trigger people. And for some people, I think it's a case of feeling bad in the moment, maybe feeling bad for the rest of the day, and then that's it. They get over it, they move on with their lives, and that's that. Not so easy for me. You know, some people would call me a ruminator, a neurotic, someone who just can't let go of things, and that makes it very difficult to move on through depressive episodes. I kind of feel like once I'm in it, I know that it's going to be 1 or 2 weeks, possibly, maybe just 3 or 4 days to begin to get over it. And when I say get over it, I mean, I don't mean completely go from sunshine and rainbows or to depression and back again. I mean, go from being in a state of like sort of low key mood, low key depression, and then ramping it up to like full blown, and then maybe just returning back to that state of, you know, mild depression or something like that. So yeah, it's just part of being a neurotic, part of being someone who is highly stress sensitive, worries about things. I kind of feel like surely it must be genetic. You know, it must just be something I'm born with. You know, and I don't think people want to admit that, because then obviously you have no control over it. You're just born a certain way. And when it comes to like your mood, like the thought of not being able to ever get out of it isn't very inspiring and hopeful. I mean, I'm here to say that I am to some degree getting over it. I'm definitely better than I was Monday, without a doubt. It's Friday now, so you know, as the week has gone on, things have definitely improved. So I'm not saying just because you have a genetic predisposition for something, that doesn't mean that, well, that's it, all hope is lost. But it does mean that it's not so easy. It's not so easy to just switch it on and off, or, you know, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just get on with life, you know, like so many people might advise that don't have to deal with it. But yeah, I mean, Monday was a day of spending most of it in bed, just didn't want to get out, face the world. It was painful. It's painful to be aware and conscious. And the thoughts running through my head were pretty dark, you know, that the kind of, shall I just end it all today? Is this going to be the day? Because when you're in those bad, deep depressions, you know, it feels, there's nothing else that feels like it. You know, someone could have just told you that your people that you care about in life have all just died, and you'd have that gut wrenching, sinking feeling of, and just absolute despair and sadness, and that's the only kind of thing I can kind of equate it to. If there was, you know, a family member or a pet or something that you loved that you now no longer have, or the news of you no longer having it, and just the sadness and misery that comes along with that's kind of what it's like for me. And I think, you know, it's not uncommon for a lot of people. But, you know, I guess I'm in an interesting position whereby, because I'm self-employed, and even then I don't barely make enough money to pay for my bills and stuff. Like, I feel like, you know, it just takes me out of everything. I'm not even in a position where I'm forced to go to work the next day. And, you know, sometimes that kind of being forced to do things you don't want to do anyway, even when you're depressed, can be a good thing. Depends. Some people need that break, that time off, and not having that could send them completely over the edge. Other times, I think some people need that break. But I think I could have probably done with some something to be getting on with. I mean, I'm in a very fortunate position that I had someone I could call on, and although they can't help me with this, they don't know what it's like to be depressed and be dealing with depression, I could just say to them, look, can we just hang out today? You know, I'll take the day off. I know I knew they already had the day off and weren't doing anything, and you know, were happy to see me anyway. But yeah, we ended up just hanging out. They suggested we go bowling, and I was like, I can't bring my A game here. I know it's the day after, you know, the big depressive episode, but you know, I'm not feeling great. Anyway, we went bowling. I won a few games of bowling. Did that make me feel better? Probably gave me like a little ego shallow boost in some way, but obviously not enough to, you know, switch the depression off basically. But I think that was quite good, you know, just being out of my usual routine, or you know, having a change of scenery and being somewhere else, being with another human being. I think that really helps. So, you know, the advice to anyone watching this, whoever goes through a depression, like, yeah, have the day where you're just in bed and feeling bad, but eventually, even if you don't want to, even if you can't bear it, doesn't mean it's not a good idea to be around other human beings, even if it's literally just to probably, you know, walk out into your local town and visit a few shops or something. I mean, I don't know. I don't even really feel like I want to advise on this kind of stuff because everyone's different. But I think I'm just talking from my own experience. I think that would help me. So that's why I'm saying it. But yeah, the week went on, and I did a few productive things. Like I say, I work for myself. I'm trying to promote my business and do little things to help with that. So I put some social media content together. I ended up spending all of Wednesday doing that. So that was good, that was productive. Like I didn't even expect that I would be that productive 2 days after a full-blown depression attack, or whatever you want to call it, depression bender. And that was good. Trouble is, it's a funny thing because you just don't get any immediate feedback from this kind of stuff. Sometimes you get no feedback. It's like going to the gym. You know, so what I mean by that, you know, promoting yourself on social media is like going to the gym, where you just don't get, you know, you don't put up an Instagram post or a YouTube video and then you go from, I don't know, a typical 50 views or something, or 5 views, to 5,000 sales of your product. You know, it just doesn't work like that. Every day you'll put something up, and if you're in that low tier bucket, you know, if you're posting on social media, you're only used to 1 or 2 likes, you know, and even that seems like something good, then yeah, you're never going to be able to then promote anything, because you just don't have the audience, you don't have anyone that cares about anything you do, unless you get lucky, unless you're sort of that 1 in a million that happens to go viral with something you posted that day. But let's be honest, when it comes to social media, most people aren't promoting themselves or posting viral content. You have to be a certain type of person for it as well. Like for me personally, I feel like I've got too much, I mean, it might sound a bit stuck up and arrogant, but I feel like I've got too much integrity to sell my soul to TikTok, for example. Just make an idiot of myself just for other people's amusement, just so that they might like what I'm doing. Which is obviously, you know, the easy way to go viral is just do something crazy and unexpected, you know, create some rage bait, gaslight people, say something controversial, you know, make someone feel something, typically something bad. That's typically the easiest way to do it. And if you're someone who's quite kind of like down tempo, you know, like me, sort of talks quite slowly, thinks quite deeply, yeah, the chance of getting across something immediate to be able for it to be able to work and go viral on something like TikTok, it's a big ask basically. So but yeah, well, the analogy I was going to say with social media and going to the gym is like if you post a promotional marketing content piece on social media, you know, you're not going to the next day get 5,000 sales off the back of it unless you already have like a big established business. If the whole point is to help begin to grow a business, then you know, it's going to be a crazy, insane, difficult uphill climb, especially when you have no extra budget to help boost any of your postings. And I think it's a bit like when you're working out, you're eating healthy, you're trying to lose the weight or get in shape or whatever the hell you're trying to do. And you might have a really good day. You might spend 3 hours at the gym and you might eat nothing but salads all day. And it's not easy. But then you've got to do that again and again and again. And after doing that for sort of 3 or 4 weeks, when you step on the scales and you see you've only lost like 2 pounds, you just think, basically you think, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore. And you give up. And that's a natural, obvious human reaction to something. If something just doesn't get results, humans just give up. And there's this, the advice is that you don't do that. The thing with people that succeed in life is that the thing they all share, the one thing in common is that they didn't give up. But easy to say that when you're already successful. Very difficult to say that when, let's just say you're a fat person, you've been going to the gym and eating healthy for the last 12 months, and despite the fact that you're 100 pounds overweight, in that time you've only managed to lose 8 pounds. It gets to the point where you sort of project forward and you think, well, even if I continued at this rate and it didn't get any easier or harder, and it will get harder. Sorry to disappoint you, but it's easier to lose weight in the beginning, harder as it goes on. But yeah, you project forward to the future and you think, well, if I carry on putting myself through this torture for another year, another 2 years, it's going to take 5 or 6 years for me to get to where I want to get. And then, it's not like I've now climbed the mountain and could just, enjoy the view. It's like, no, I've got to keep climbing the mountain every day thereafter just to maintain. And life is really difficult, and I don't know how some people seem to just breeze through it. I have no idea how they're doing it, because obviously we have so many problems in life. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, you look at the Western world, especially the UK where I'm from, the rest of Europe, the USA, whatever. There's a lot of obesity going on, so obviously a lot of people don't have their shit together, because I don't think anyone would wake up or be born into the world, or if they could choose their ideal avatar, the sort of person that they wish that they were, no one would ever paint the picture of the out of shape, obese person who can't control themselves. It's not even control. Well, it is not being able to control yourself, but there's a reason why I think people like that can't control themselves, and it's not all their fault. Look at me. I'm not a big person. I'm not fat, but I have a lot of sympathies and understanding of the fat person plight, because I've known people in my life who are fat, and I can see that there's just things in their life that's making them be that way. They've got a lot of stresses and a lot of worries, and I don't blame them. And not to mention there's a genetic component. I've been out with people who we eat the same food, but we'll weigh ourselves. If we eat the same food for a week, we'll weigh ourselves at the end of it. They would have gained 10 pounds. I would have lost 10 pounds. And there's something going on genetically where with some people it's obviously not all through just choice and lack of control. Anyway, I'm sort of going off on a tangent here, but why not, why not just talk about just random stuff, really. But so Tuesday was good for me to get out of the house, and I think that was the catalyst for Wednesday being the productive day. Although, like I say, it's difficult when you are being productive and not getting any immediate results and reward from it. Because you work your ass off and you just think, why am I doing this? I'm not getting anything out of this. For other people who aren't self-employed or, that have a job, especially people that work in digital marketing and content media management, stuff like that, they go to work for the day, they'll pump out social media content for pre-existing established businesses, and obviously their social media content gets results, and they get a pat on the back from a boss who says, good job, well done, and then they get a paycheck at the end of the day. Whereas if you're starting at the bottom and no one really knows you exist, even if you're doing good work, no one's going to give you a pat on the back. No one's ever going to even know that you exist. No one's going to see the fruits of your labour, and not only that, no one's going to buy your product. So it does get pretty stressful, and I think for me personally, work is something that it gets me down a lot. Just money and work. I mean, obviously, if I had unlimited money, I wouldn't need to worry about work. So really, this does come down to the bottom line, comes down to money, how much you're making. But it's not. The trouble is making money within the constraints of the person that you are. So obviously, I'm a neurotic. I'm someone who worries, overthinks, overanalyzes. Being like that has its strengths. Sometimes, from an entrepreneurial perspective, starting up businesses, really, you just want a doer, a go-getter, someone who's just going to get results, not really think about it too much. It does make it very difficult if you're over-planning everything. I think a trial and error approach generally works better with people who do start businesses and run businesses and that kind of thing, at least to begin with. Then you can start implementing plans, strategies to kind of tweak the dials later down the line. But I'm not that person, I have to work with what I've got. I am someone who's very analytical and will sort of think deeply about things before taking action, and then I have to appreciate that, my communication skills are of a certain level, my sort of levels of charisma when talking to people is of a certain level, my attractiveness is of a certain level. That limits me. Anyone who believes it doesn't, obviously quite deluded. And yeah, there's a lot of things that kind of will work against me in life and work against anyone who's trying to do anything. So yeah, it's trying to live with these constraints of just, like I say, I don't know, not being intelligent enough. I'm not a 180 IQ genius. I'm probably pretty average, really, to be honest. But that's not good enough, is it, if you're trying to sort of stand out and make a name for yourself or make something of yourself? But at the same time, the idea of sort of being someone who does struggle with depression, anxiety, other mental health or physical health issues, like trying to plug yourself into the system, into a normal 9 to 5, 5 days a week work routine, it just, sometimes you realise that this just isn't going to work. There's a reason why I don't have a full-time employed job and haven't for years. It's because every time I've tried it, I'll get 3 to 6 months in, and then I'll have to quit or go part-time or something. So okay, just had to pause it there while I got a phone call. It was actually from a doctor to discuss some other complaint. It's like I've got some liver issue, some blood test results came back and something was not right. They wanted to discuss it with me. So, wow, that's okay. That's another thing just to add to the list of ailments and complaints that I'm dealing with. But yeah, this is just the thing. It's like, I appreciate everyone's got their problems. There's other people with, malfunctioning organs, some people that have it really bad, and I don't want to take away from anyone by saying that I'm dealing with some stuff, but let me just talk from my own perspective, and people can either relate or they can just think this guy's not worth listening to, and that's up to you. so yeah, it's at least like I needed to book that appointment for that doctor's appointment at the start of the week. Obviously I was too depressed to even get out of bed. I wasn't willing or able to talk to anyone, and I think today was the first day where I felt like I could do that, where I could actually speak on the phone. And so yeah, good that I've actually got an appointment. For anyone that doesn't know, for anyone that doesn't live in the United Kingdom, gaining access to see doctors, despite the fact that we pay tax in order to fund a national health service, is not easy. Used to be. When I was younger, 20 years old, used to be such the case that you could literally walk into your doctor's surgery, take a ticket, and then within the space of 45 minutes, an hour, you would definitely be seen. Whenever you wanted, you definitely get seen within the hour. Then it changed to a system whereby, you know, you have to call up, you know, knowing to sort of, you need to sort of book in advance. You couldn't get seen on the day. Then it switched to having to phone up first thing in the morning to be able to get seen that day. And you know, when it's just one of these sort of almost checkups, like a non-urgent checkup where you know, a doctor's been asked to speak to the results about something, but you don't have that immediate you know, issue. You know, like I feel okay so far as my liver goes. I think, you know, I'm eating and drinking okay, I'm passing food okay, but there's obviously a problem that needs looking at that I was unaware of. I actually got this blood test for a different ailment, which I won't go into, but yeah, the reason for the blood test to begin with wasn't even to check that there was a liver issue. That was just something that was sort of flagged during the process. But yeah, I think this is the thing, you know, when you know, like the other day I actually took the time to write down all my sort of physical health ailments, and I came up with a list of about 25 things, you know, big things, little things, you know, like having a bad right knee that, you know, sometimes sort of dislocates or whatever. Didn't even know dislocated knee was a thing. I don't even know if it actually is, but it feels like that. And yeah, sometimes it does get like that, and I literally have to clonk it back into position to stop the pain. It just sort of, yeah, it just slips out of alignment. It must be a thing. I've never even looked it up, but you know, because it's just something I deal with. It's just, oh, okay, the knee has sort of slipped out again. I now have to slip it back in again because it's fucking agony, basically. But there's so many things like that, and I just listed like, yeah, about 25 ailments. Like I say, I'm not anyone special here. I mean, I'm sure if you think about it, you know, people say, oh, actually, yeah, I sometimes get headaches. Actually, sometimes I get, you know, fatigue or tiredness, or, oh, actually, sometimes I get, you know, a bad, irritable, painful bowel issue or whatever it is. You know, whatever ailments that people have, you know. Some people could say that they have poor sight if they wear glasses. It's just, you know, it is still a physical impediment. But yeah, that is just a good example when you actually write these things down, just how many problems on a day-to-day basis us humans are trying to have to deal with, you know, and unfortunately it does seem to get worse as you get older, but I won't go too much into that. So yeah, as the week has gone on, mental health has improved somewhat, but I'm still not in a great way. I just felt like I needed to just give a little bit of an update, because I did post a video about this like 4 or 5 days ago, just saying that I'm really depressed, and this is really just a reply to that. Not that anyone, I think, even watched that last video, maybe one person, and they're probably not going to watch this one. You know, they clicked on it and thought, okay, this was a mistake. You know, I've got this guy just talking about nothing. You know, it's hardly like an exciting car chase scene in a movie or something, is it? But yeah, I just wanted to give an update to say that, yeah, I'm just doing a little bit better. And that just goes to show that, you know, you give it enough time and you can go from that place of considering ending it multiple times throughout the day to not. Like today, I'm not really thinking about that. I'm kind of just more, I would say that gut-wrenching despair and that feeling of just wanting to constantly like break down in tears has gone. And now it's been replaced with like a deep kind of frustration, anger, and just sort of low-level sadness. So that's where I'm at right now. So things are looking up. It's like, oh, okay, now I'm just constantly angry and over, you know, like overly sad. But you know, for me, that's an improvement on last time. But yeah, it's difficult times. It's difficult times. And I can't even understand how, you know, just given the state of things in the world, people are happy. You know, people, you know, the disparity between the super wealthy and the poor just grows every day. You're constantly made to feel like shit every time you open up a social media platform and you realise that you're not doing what they're doing and you're not good enough. You couldn't even do one funny viral video if your life depended on it. You know, you couldn't create one masterpiece artwork if, again, your life depended on it. And people doing stuff like, you know, putting stuff like that out on social media every single day. And comparatively, how does anyone not feel like they're a complete and utter loser? And therefore, how does anyone not feel bad about themselves, really? It's crazy. And that's just, you know, that's just looking at your phone, and then it just seems like there's so much pressure to be efficient, to be optimal, to be like a robot and just do so much stuff. I don't know, maybe I'm just sort of wishing times were simpler. You know, you can watch these old-fashioned like black and white footage films of like people that lived back in like the 1920s or something, and you just think, God, 100 years ago, life seemed a lot simpler. Like, obviously there was still the haves and the have-nots, and you would compare. Depression was a thing. You know, they had their own sets of issues, but they didn't have to wake up and immediately look at their phone. And even if it's something they do for enjoyment, you know, they scroll through YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels or TikTok videos. You know, like, in the back of their mind, there wasn't this subconscious feeling that, why am I consuming instead of doing? Why am I not having the success that these YouTubers are, or whatever it is? Why aren't I making money advertising these products? And why do I have to, you know, work hard or go to a job or deal with whatever the fuck I'm dealing with? So, you know, and that's before you've even got out of bed in the morning. So, yeah, I'm surprised. You know, like, people complain about suicide rates being higher than they've ever been in human history, at least where I'm from here in the UK. And I'm thinking, to be honest, I'm surprised they're not higher. You know, maybe I was lucky because I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s when there seemed like there was a lot of hope, especially in the sort of technology sphere. It seemed like humanity was going in a positive direction. But you know, I walk out into the streets and I just see too much crime, people who I don't understand what they're doing, what they're saying, what their lives are like. There's not any kind of like social cohesion here, and everyone's just atomized and doing their own thing, and there's just no sense of feeling as though you're part of everything. You feel detached, and that's just, you know, like, I mean, there's so that, like, okay, so I think what I'm pointing at here is these fundamental issues with just being a human. You want to feel grounded in the place that you live. You want to feel it. You want to feel safe, and you want to feel like the people around you kind of understand you. You understand them. They have your back to some degree, and you have theirs. You want to feel like you could call up your neighbour and ask to borrow some tools, and they would be happy to do it, and you would be happy to do it for them. At least that's maybe a kind of utopia that it seemed like that kind of thing existed more in the past, not so much now. You know, you want to feel like if you're having problems, then people would see the humanity in you and would want to help you, and you would want to do the same for them if you could help. But we don't have that groundedness. Everyone's too busy. I think everyone's kind of overworked and underpaid, literally. Like, in the job place, yeah, literally. You know, there's been times recently where I've started to look at getting back into the sort of full-time employment workforce, even though it's delusional and I know that I would struggle with it. but I sort of think maybe I should just do that just to like sort the issues of, you know, money and paying bills out, you know. But I look at jobs now that were paying the same as they were sort of 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and they're paying pretty much the same now, despite the fact of inflation, despite the fact that, you know, like living costs have doubled in the last 20 years, housing prices have doubled at least in the last 20 years. So it's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, less resources, therefore kind of lower living standards. Would I say lower living standards? Yeah, for poor people, you know, like myself and, you know, 90+% of the population, yeah, I think people would say standards are worse. Just overcrowding. When you do think, right, I'm going to take a break, I'm going to go, like I did on Tuesday, I went bowling. But if you went bowling on a Saturday or Sunday, it's so incredibly busy, packed. Everyone's loud, everyone's inconsiderate. Everyone's just, you know, kids are running around, the staff don't care, they're overworked, they're rushed off their feet. People around you are just being annoying, you know, like people in the other lanes, bowling lanes next to you will start like butting into your lane. Years ago I actually got a bowling ball as a present for my birthday. And sometimes, most of the time, I will bring it bowling. I don't go bowling often, like a couple of times a year now. But you know, if I brought my own bowling ball on a Saturday, someone would just pick it up and start using it in another lane, either assuming that it's just the house ball, or that they just don't care, even if it's not. I've had that a few times, and I just have to say, you know, can you not use my ball, because I don't want other people's fingers going inside these holes that were specifically drilled to fit my hand size. But you know, just like if you want to use your own ball, just get your own ball. But yeah, there just seems like a lack of consideration for other people these days, and again, it's part of that just not feeling grounded. It's part of that feeling atomized, like you're not part of a community, you're not part of a society as such. You know, is it just me, or do I feel as though we're all just expected to behave like these little atomized robots that go to work, or maybe even don't go to work, just sit in front of a screen all day, you know, staring at spreadsheets that mean nothing, you know, talking to no one, not really making any kind of deep, meaningful relationships. And I know a lot of people don't want deep, meaningful relationships, and if they don't, that's fine, that's up to them, that's their personality type or whatever. But you know, I dream of the days when you could actually create relationships of substance, and I don't think you can really do that now. I don't think culture is really set up for that. And I was so naive. I used to be like a big sort of sci-fi fan when I was a kid, and I still am. And sci-fi was fun and cool, and it felt, you know, even if I watched the dystopian sci-fi, it's kind of like it was just fun. It was just a fun way to play around with the what if type of ideas. But it seemed as though that obviously that would never happen, because, you know, that was just, you know, if humanity was so dumb and stupid that this is what would happen if it all went wrong. But now, so far as like tech and science and you know, the societies go, I feel as though we're pretty close to living in a cyberpunk dystopia. I mean, obviously right now I'm having a little break from it. I'm sitting outside somewhere where, you know, I'm not surrounded by high-rise office blocks and the humming of electric cables above my head. But yeah, I don't feel happy with how things are. Just overcrowded, crazy busyness, and it's just a bit of a weird dystopian hellscape that we're either inhabiting, or that's like, it's not everywhere. You know, there's definitely parts of the country you go to, you know, it's just rolling hills and mountains and giant meadows, rivers, lakes, not too many people about. There are places like that, but you have to make an effort to kind of get to them. The places where people are, the places where jobs are, where work is, where you're expected to live, because you know, and you need to live in some of these places, like not only for work, but you need to live where, you know, there's nearby facilities that you need to access in order to live. Like, yeah, a lot of places I like the way things are going, and I feel like we're actually living in either a dystopia or we're on the brink of existing in one. And I think, yeah, I mean, even so far as like where people's dreams are now being crushed, you know, people that one day dreamt that they'd quit their shit jobs and end up becoming an author, a writer, they'd get their books published, and, you know, or they'd become like a music producer and they'd play their music to, you know, it would get in the charts, and they'd, you know, be able to make a career out of that, or play their stuff at big venues. Like, it's all been overtaken by AI. Not all of it, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at this point, anyone who does art, creative writing or script writing or just blogging or whatever, there's just so many jobs now that have been completely replaced by AI, or the AI tools have allowed people to come into the space and basically outcompete the OGs that actually made the content to begin with. If you're an artist and you want to sell, you know, an art print on Etsy, eBay, Amazon, you know, pick your online platform of choice, you know, unless you're a significant player in that game, you can't do it, because there's an AI prompter out there who's ready to basically create something better than you, and then mass produce that, you know, create 20 items that are better than anything that you could do within the space of a day. That's it, the ship has sailed. So even the possibility about one day escaping the daily grind and being able to work towards our meaningful pursuits, you know, we've been denied that now as a sort of civilization. You wouldn't believe it, because obviously, unlike this video, which is, like I say, probably going to get that 2 views, the stuff that appears in news feeds and For You pages on social media platforms or on the news or whatever, like anything that you see and that you sort of just seems to be there, that that's being promoted, you know, that's not proportional to what is actually happening. You know, only 0.something% of people who, for example, create YouTube channels will be able to not only monetize their channels but be successful by creating YouTube channels. It's definitely like 90-something% of YouTube videos or channel creators that upload to YouTube aren't even monetized and don't get any ad revenue off the back of their YouTube video ads. But the ones but even then, like the people that monetize, that sort of, I don't know what it is, like 4%, 5% of people that are actually monetized. Out of that 4 or 5%, probably only, I don't know, 15% of those actually make enough money from ad revenue and potentially like sponsorships and stuff like that in order to like have even a kind of mediocre career, or at least doing the thing they love. And I don't think people get it. I don't think people get just how difficult everything is, because obviously the cream of the crop is all rising to the top, and we're seeing what seems like everyone being successful, everyone fulfilling their passions and, you know, writing their books, creating their songs, you know, pumping out their YouTube videos or making their little films, you know, all these fun creative pursuits that, you know, the people are now making a living from, which was once considered, you know, a hobby space only. It's like, no, most people aren't doing it. And I think the worst thing is we're sold the idea that you can do it. We're told that just hard work and consistency is enough, and it's not really. In fact, anyone that's looking for advice on how to be successful already pretty much has lost has lost the game. Because the people who are really successful, they're too busy just doing the stuff that they need to be in order to be successful to even ask anyone else how to do it. I mean, that's not strictly true, but you get the idea. You know, there's people that will every day log on to websites, you know, trying to get glean some kind of insight on how I can do things better, how I can be successful, how I can, you know, remove the problems in my life, you know, like how I can have better relationships with people, how I can get in shape and lose weight, you know, how wherever people want, you know, money, fitness, relationships. There's people that will tell you how to do it, and there's more people, way more people still, that on a daily basis will subscribe to that kind of content. But really, like, you know, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And if you don't, you don't. And perhaps, you know, enough advice or prescriptions for, you know, how to do things, you know, eventually that might be enough to get a few people over the finish line. But really, I think you've got to be the sort of person that can generate an insane work ethic from within. And I think those people are quite limited, and that is why most people aren't successful, because most people aren't them. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong there, I'm not sure. I'm just ranting here, but yeah, at the end of the day, I just wanted to put this one out there just to say that, you know, if you're watching this and you're thinking, you know what, I've had some bad times, I've suffered with depression, I have this negative outlook like you do, you know, I'm often considering how the world is shit and how things aren't right and how I'm not right or whatever it is. It's like, I'm just saying, like, you're not alone, obviously, and I don't think you should ever beat yourself up for being, you know, for thinking the things you think or being the person that you are. It's just maybe things are shit. Maybe things are really shit. And yeah, maybe it's true that having a certain personality type, disposition, or a sort of mental model of the world that makes you concentrate too much on that kind of stuff isn't healthy. Yeah, maybe it's not, but it is what it is. So we have to just find our own ways to cope, and unfortunately no one's going to necessarily be there to give us a break, but you know, it's up to every individual, I think, to just go out into the world, find what works for them, take in outside influences from other people, from other things that they see, and then just try and integrate that into an understanding of reality. And that's why I don't feel too bad in one sense about this video being a bit of a sort of, you know, negative doomer talk type thing, where, you know, I know what this is. This is me doing a self-indulgent rant for the most part about stuff that pisses me off. And but equally, it's more than that. I think it's just an example of, like, this is what a guy thinks, and a guy who's not out there killing it, who's appearing on the front page of your YouTube feed or whatever, you know, consistently at least, or at all. You know, I'm just one of the majority of people who are going about their life doing what they need to do. I suppose maybe not, I'm not even in the majority. I don't think most people could even sit here and look at a camera and talk about anything. Although I think half the time I'm not actually looking at the camera lens, I'm just sort of staring out, you know, staring out into space, just narrating the thoughts in my head. But yeah, I don't think some people could even do that. Maybe they wouldn't want to, maybe they don't need to, that's fair enough. I'm not saying I'm special or anything, but yeah, you just got to do what you've got to do what you think's right, and yeah, I think just putting some thoughts out into the world, you know, is good for you sometimes. Like, this is another thing, I think if you're depressed, sorry to go off on another tangent here, but record yourself talk. You don't even have to look at the camera. I mean, just record a voice memo, a voice note through the audio app on your phone. I mean, I do that on average about 4 times a week. I speak into my phone, typically for an hour at a time, just narrating my thoughts, which is a lot. You know, if you think that's about 4 or 5 hours a week, that's a lot of time effectively journaling, just trying to get the thoughts out of my head. I actually find that really useful. I do it with writing as well. So in addition to that, maybe, I mean, it's a lot less now to sit down and write, and I have to be in front of a keyboard because typing on my phone's too slow. I'm just not as fast text typing as I am keyboard typing. And so yeah, maybe once every 3 weeks I'll sit down at a computer and for a couple of hours and try and get my thoughts out, and then really tighten those up and see what I'm actually thinking. I think that's useful for me. That might be useful for other people to consider. You know, even if it's just the difference between feeling really, really fucking shit and just instead feeling really shit, you know, without the F word. You know, if it just drops you down from 100% shit down to 95% shit or something, you know, it's probably worth it. For me, I think it is. Doesn't solve my problems, but it does help me survive. So that's something to consider. But yeah, so I'm just putting some stuff out into the world. I'm literally going to throw this out into the world. And I suppose the reason I'm posting it on YouTube and I'm not keeping this as a personal voice note is just on the off chance that a few people kind of watch this and can kind of get something out of it that is useful or helpful, even if it's not advice, even if it's just, okay, I'm not the only loser here, or this guy's even worse than I am, or, oh, okay, but this guy said he was depressed and now he's better. There you go. There's one little node, one little mark on the graph to show that actually it's not, you know, this state of depression isn't permanent. And maybe it is more permanent for other people than it is me. All I can do is talk from my own experience, but you know, that's what you can do really. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening to me talk, and yeah, perhaps I'll speak to you again in a future video.